Hello, I am the Irish guy and the Premier League is back. And how is everybody feeling? Are you so excited you could burst like a balloon? Have you been spending this weekend doing cartwheels on your head? Well, it is back and so is the Prem Catchup. Yeah. An entire summer has passed, and this series still has a name about as exciting as being breastfed by a cow. Well, go on then. What happened in Premier League Game Week 1? Oh, by the way, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. You lovely, lovely people. Right, let's go. Newcastle 5, Aston Villa 1. Newcastle are top of the league. Newcastle are top of the Premier League. But this was strange. Newcastle versus Aston Villa is always an underrated rivalry. Well, I mean, a bit of a one-sided rivalry because Aston Villa fans mocked Newcastle when they were relegated in 2009 and then again in 2016. Both times at Villa Park, although the second one was weird because Villa went down 2. But Newcastle have already had their revenge on Aston Villa. They beat them 6-0 on their return to the Premier League in 2010 and they smashed them 4-0 a year ago. But again, they are still ripping Villa apart. 5-1, Newcastle were incredible. What that Aston Villa team was a shadow, a ghost of Christmas past of what Newcastle nearly became, because these owners tried to hire Unai Emery and were forced to settle for Eddie Howe instead. They tried to buy £35 million centre-back Diego Carlos, were forced to settle for Sven Botman instead. They tried to buy Moussa Diaby from Leverkusen, were forced to settle for Anthony Gordon instead. This is a club who tried to buy Luca Digne to play left back and were forced to settle for Matt Targett instead, and then later Dan Burn. And don't forget, the club's first marquee transfer under the new ownership was apparently going to be Philip Coutinho. Just looked like a lost little boy in his cameo at the weekend. He looked like he was a small, helpless child patrolling the Milk Island Tesco looking for his mum. But no, Newcastle at the weekend looked incredibly strong. At that midfield three of Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton, arguably the best midfield three in the league. I mean, Tonali in particular. They say that Italians fail in the Premier League. But no, I don't care if he doesn't speak a word of English. I don't care if he has spent the last 3 weeks slagging off the state of pizzas and Jordi takeaways. He was absolutely incredible on Saturday. And that front three of Almiron, Isak and Gordon ran Villa ragged in the first half, but the team arguably looked even more dangerous when Callum Wilson and Harvey Barnes came on. They were direct, hungry, deadly, and are now top of the league. Newcastle have not had a stronger first game of the season at St James's Park since they beat Villa 6-0 in 2010 when Andy Carroll bagged a hat-trick, back when he was the original Harry Kane. I mean, can you imagine him at Bayern Munich now? He'd probably just be used as nothing more than a donkey to give Thomas Muller a picky back to work. Although, Carroll has actually been back on the news this week. I mean, whatever you do, don't Google his name. The man keeps on spoiling his life. Anyway, for any team to do this to a side coached by Unai Emery, to make Pau Torres on his Villa debut look like David Luiz trying to play the sport after 6 hours at a barbecue, just honestly, wow. And make no mistake about it, Alexander Isak is absolutely insane. I mean, when that final whistle went, do you think Emery, Carlos, Digne and Diaby all shared a tearful group hug, devastated that they didn't just go to Newcastle when they had the chance? Although, what is it with Aston Villa seeing their centre-back smash their knee into wet wheelie on the opening day? How unlucky. It seems harsh, but considering the level of centre-backs waiting in the wings, and considering he is now 30 years of age, I think Tyrone Mings at Villa is done. I mean, he knows it himself. When he eventually returns from injury next summer, he'll probably be forgotten and just gonna move back to Southampton for about 7 million quid. Just sad. Brighton 4, Luton Town 1. Imagine being a Luton Town fan this weekend. You're so incredibly excited to watch your first Premier League match in 31 years. You've probably combed your hair 4 times, picked out your best Sunday suit. You were probably too nervous to even swallow your scrambled eggs. You make the trip to Brighton to sit in an actual Premier League stadium where the plastic seats don't actually stink of wee, and then you watch your team concede 4. To be fair, I mean, it was only 1-0 with 20 minutes left, but the absolute collapse. There's running out of steam, and then there's this. Rob Edwards' men perfectly demonstrated that they got the gas tank of Conor McGregor, someone who after round 5 suddenly looks like he's just after babysitting the Exorcist child. Look, this Brighton win was comfy despite having the midfield ripped apart by Chelsea and Liverpool. Honestly, over the last 18 months, Chelsea, Liverpool and Arsenal have single-handedly tried to tear apart this Brighton project with their bare teeth, taking Ben White, Leandro Trossard, Moise Caicedo, Alexis McAllister and Graham Potter and his backroom staff. You'd swear they were Marvel super villains who keep trying to poison the Avengers one by one by, I don't know, slipping morphine into the Hulk's bowl of Frosties in the morning. But Brighton were still typically good, although I don't think any pundits actually watched this match because the tagline, the one takeaway all the pundits said were, "Evan Ferguson is class!" And he is, but he only played 12 minutes this weekend and scored a tap-in to make it 4. Is that really the big takeaway from this match for everyone? No chat about how Joe Pedro ate Luton for tea. Oh no, it was all about the substitute who was barely on the pitch long enough to justify a shower. But honestly, Luton, this was grim. And to sum up just how woeful this was, Pele Rudak Mampanzu is a 29-year-old midfielder who has been with this club since the conference. So he was now given a start at the Premier League, the pinnacle moment of his life. But stupidly, in the 85th minute, tries to flick the ball over Simon Adingra's head in the 6-yard box. I bet he was hoping his brother would film it and stick it on the gram, but no, he fluffs his Ronaldinho skill, showing the technique of a polar bear with 2 wonky feet, and basically just teed up Adingra to flash home a volley. But also, for little old Luton Town to start their Premier League journey, they'd be wanting Manchester United or Liverpool at home, travelling to Brighton. I know these two clubs hadn't actually met since 2009, but still, it's hardly a glamour tie. Carlton Morris looks like he was on the verge of tears after his first Prem goal, but I mean, it was just an anticlimactic penalty rolled past Jason Steele. You know, the ex-Sunderland flop. Although, weirdly, according to some football managers on the planet, I guess this snotty bloke, someone who looks like a middle-aged Draco Malfoy, could actually play for Real Madrid. Come on, work it out. Okay, the breadcrumbs are there. Work it out. You can do this. I believe in you. Everton 0, Fulham 1. Everton need a striker. It's actually laughable how true this is. I'm surprised that the stats say the Fulham dominated possession with 59% of the ball, because all I saw was Everton absolutely dominating this game. They had 9 shots on target to Fulham's 2. They had 19 shots in total. Sounds like McGregor in a club. Sean Dyche's men actually played well with their composure in front of goal. If I was an Everton fan, I would have left Goodison Park feeling a bit like someone who just saw their puppy eaten by an elephant at the zoo. I mean, imagine how Jordan Pickford must feel. I mean, he from the best seat in the house, watching Neil Maupay at the other end of the pitch squander chance after chance after chance. We talk about ex-Brighton stars going on to do bigger and better things. Yeah, no, he's a bit like Aaron Connolly in that life after Brighton has exposed him for being about as competent as a blind donkey. This is a man who scored 1 goal for Everton a year ago, and since then, awful. This guy, Graham Potter, actually dropped from his Brighton squad for getting carried away with his own success. Is this a joke? How was Maupay ever in a position to actually be arrogant? I mean, was he strutting around Brighton's training ground, acting like a cross between Anelka and Bieber? Was he now spitting at lunch ladies if they served him up an undercooked pie? Was he now parking in disabled spots outside cafes and just squatting down beside homeless people in the street just to eat a burger in their face? I mean, was American Psycho his favorite film? Like, I honestly can't understand how he was ever arrogant in this division, considering he's always been championship quality. Anyway, Fulham won this match thanks to a smash and grab tap-in from Bobby De Cordova-Reid, whilst Alexander Mitrovic sulked on the bench and Raul Jimenez started in his place. Again, a striker with 0 Premier League goals last season. This was like just a battle between 2 centre forwards who've got cripplingly low confidence and self-esteem. It was like sitting through an episode of The Undated Bulls. I imagine Raul, ever since his head injury, is probably now just claustrophobic at corner kicks. And speaking of Mitrovic, he is still holding out for that dream move to Al Hilal, where he would play in a front 3 with Neymar and Malcolm, 2 ex-Barcelona wingers from Brazil. I mean, it won't be Malcolm in the middle. No, it'll be a scary looking Serbian bloke with a dodgy neck tattoo. I mean, do you really think he has anything in common with those Brazilian boys? If you saw those 3 on a night out down the club, you'd assume Mitro was just Neymar's bodyguard. I mean, Neymar's gonna be regularly flying to LA to attend the birthday parties for celebrities. I mean, imagine him bringing his new best friend Mitrovic to Katy Perry's wedding. I mean, it'd be like inviting Michael Myers to a children's birthday party. Mitrovic reminds me of Jaws off James Bond. His creepy smile alone would give you 4 nightmares a week. A player who would suit Al Hilal better than Mitrovic would be Richarlison. I'm surprised that's not a transfer that is happening, because isn't it so obvious? Given the chance to play with Neymar every week instead of 4 times a year, I think Richie would eat a plate of bumblebees just to push through that move. But yes, Everton, instead of messing around with loan deals for Jack Harrison, go and buy a striker. Go and sign Jonathan David from Lille. Do it now! Bournemouth 1, West Ham 1. This will be encouraging for both teams. This was a ridiculously open match. Bournemouth fans will be happy so far with Andoni and Riola ball, as they dominated with 63% possession. But they were left vulnerable. They had 14 shots. West Ham had 16. And yes, the Cherries were caught on the break when Jared Bowen smashed one into the top bins, before Dominic Solanke showed neat footwork to salvage a point with 8 minutes left. Most sets of fans would have been pretty happy after that, and I actually think Bournemouth's fullbacks are so satisfying. There is something about going out there and buying a new right back and a new left back in the same summer that suddenly gives such a complete new look to your defense. It's honestly like a homeless person getting a proper haircut. I mean, just give them a One Direction trim and suddenly they don't look like Santa with the flu. It's like in 2017 when Man City replaced their dusty old fullbacks when they went out there and bought 2 new £50 million fullbacks, signing Kyle Walker and actually, on second thoughts, never mind who their left back was. Moving on, but Bournemouth, who now have Milos Kerkez at left back, a former AC Milan defender. Oh yeah, and now Max Aarons at right back, a guy who at Norwich was often linked with Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Just wow. They're 23 and 19. Neither will look out of place in the squad of Chelsea or Liverpool. These are neat little signings. Arsenal 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Well, the Premier League season kicked off with Arsenal fans trapped outside the Emirates, screaming at the turnstiles, looking like a scene out of Game of Thrones. Not really sure what happened. Apparently their electronic tickets didn't work, so I imagine that was stressful. I mean, Christ above. Some Arsenal zombies used to scream until the point of almost heart failure whenever they saw Arsene Wenger, I don't know, eating a cheeseburger at lunch. So being told to patiently wait outside the ground, trapped next to a statue of the man, for some of them, yeah, it was probably like being told to sleep in a coffin with their mum's corpse. But this was a game of two halves. In the first 45 minutes, Arsenal were brilliant. Goals from Bukayo Saka and Eddie Nketiah, and they were often playing with three centre backs, with right back Thomas Partey moving into midfield to overwhelm Forest. It was actually good technical flexibility from Arteta. Forest didn't know what to do. Steve Cooper has not that much bother with a Partey since he kept getting refused his first kiss at 25, but Forest won the second half. Partey could not live with the pace of Anthony Elanga, who absolutely sprinted down the left flank before setting up Taiwo Awoniyi 2 minutes after he came on as a sub. So maybe Tony E should have been on from the start. I know Arsenal won, but how sick must Aaron Ramsdale feel to not leave this ground with a clean sheet? He will feel so ashamed of himself, as if he just accidentally pooed in his trousers on an aeroplane. I mean, he'd be too embarrassed to even look the hostess in the eye as he waddled to the loo, because no man at Arsenal Football Club has more pressure on their shoulders right now than happy-go-lucky Ramsdale. Everyone at the club was probably so revitalized after the summer break, but he'll be sitting in the corner of the canteen every day, having to hold back his tears as he munches on a ham and cheese pie. Aaron Ramsdale is going to be so insecure knowing that his manager is already eyeing up another goalie, and it's a bit like finding out that your girlfriend is already scouring Tinder on her phone, which is a good analogy, because isn't Raya literally the name of a dating app? Arsenal goalkeepers constantly live in a culture of fear, because this happened when Ramsdale was bought, when Bernd Leno was still number one. Yeah, Leno was replaced after 2 games. Before him, Leno was bought when Petr Cech was still number 1. He was replaced after 7 games. I mean, talk about competition for places. Makes us all better all you want, Aaron, but the writing is on the wall when a new Arsenal goalkeeper rolls into town. It's a bit like how Tiger Woods' wife must feel whenever he hires a new personal assistant in her 20s. Give your wife as many flowers as you want, Tiger. She knows what's happening next. Chelsea won, Liverpool won. This was a quality match. A game where both teams will leave feeling pretty happy, despite neither having won. Listen, this was a good game. Both Chelsea and Liverpool looked pretty good. Luis Diaz taps in the opener after a great pass from Salah. Salah then has a goal ruled out for offside. Axel Disasi scrambles in a debut Chelsea goal. Ben Chilwell then has a goal ruled out for offside. And both Darwin Núñez and Mikel Mudryk nearly scored the winner inside the last minute. So a draw was a fair result. This was the two clubs' 7th draw with each other in a row, but it was entertaining. Although weirdly, the fact that Liverpool only had 1 shot on target is a very weird stat, because they did look dangerous. But the big news story was that Mo Salah was unhappy to be substituted. Yeah, well done. This happens all the time. Does it mean that he's now got zero professionalism and wants to leave? That he's just an elitist brat? No, James Milner is probably the biggest example of a model professional in the entire league. And I remember he was furious to get taken off at Villa Park back in 2021. Sadio Mane was fuming with Salah on a bench at Burnley in 2019. Yeah, they still went on to win the Premier League. I remember when Aguero was furious to get substituted for Man City in 2017. It doesn't matter. This happens all the time. Relax. Burnley 0, Man City 3. How deflating for a newly promoted team to start their campaign with a game against Man City at home. This was exactly how you would have imagined it going. 3-0 City, Erling Haaland scores 2. But this wasn't a contest. I'm predicting Burnley to do big things this season, yes, but they had 1 shot on target all match. This was Sander Berg's debut in the Burnley midfield, and he touched the ball about 7 times. This was a City masterclass, although Vincent Kompany was a little bit naive. The final whistle blows, and the Burnley manager is on the pitch, smiling and laughing with his old teammates. He looked like he was having a joke with Bernardo Silva. No, Kompany, you've just lost a Premier League match. At home, you've seen your team thumped 3-0, and on that Friday night, you were now bottom of the Premier League. If you want to catch up with old Man City friends, do it in the safety of the VIP lounge. Then you can give Rodri a wedgie, point and laugh at Kyle Walker's crotch, maybe even share a fudge ice cream with Kevin De Bruyne. The two of you can eat it like Lady and the Tramp, but no laughing out on the pitch, because Premier League fans are very sensitive, and especially the Burnley ones. Any smiling or laughing or joking after a defeat will cause those fans to, want to push you in front of a bus games. Sheffield United 0, Crystal Palace 1. What is the point of Sheffield United this season? What newly promoted team begins life in the Premier League with a defeat at home? 4 years ago, Sheffield United played their first Premier League match at Bramall Lane for 12 years, and the entire ground was up for it, powering them to a 1-0 win over Crystal Palace. But here, it completely set the tone for Sheffield's season, and they kicked on and somehow finished 9th. But this damp squib, maybe it's because the Blades were so recently in this league and had a horrible year where they finished bottom, when they had a stronger squad than this. Maybe that's what makes this feel so unspecial. Maybe the Sheffield United fans just weren't excited to be in this ground, watching Roy Hodgson almost try to box their left wing back. Brentford 2, Tottenham 2. This was a weird match. Brentford were lining up without Ivan Toney, and Tottenham were playing the match without Harry Kane. But this was an entertaining game. 2 goals apiece, with Brian Mbeumo actually channeling the ghost of Toney by doing his exact penalty technique. You know, the one where he waddles up to the ball, stuttering like a penguin with polio. Honestly, he was channeling the ghost of Toney so much, I thought I was watching the Sopranos film. But yeah, nothing more to say really, just a pretty decent, watchable match. Anyway, that's the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Premier League Game Week 1. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to give a like, subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.